Slurpty diddly do, my G's. Alright, my G's. Today I felt inspired to do a track breakdown of my latest release. It's called Dust and it's available on CD at HMV. I really like this song because it's a little bit gritty, like Dust is, texturally speaking and all that. It's doing quite well so far. Thank you for listening to it. You've pumped it up to number 3 in the Artifact Spotify charts of his own music. So that's wonderful, isn't it, my G's? Truly wonderful. What a splendid occasion. So I thought I'd do a little track breakdown, as I just mentioned about 31 seconds ago. And what you have here displayed in front of your very eyes, of which I do have them as well, is they're behind these I think they're called sunglasses. Sometimes people say, oh, why do you wear sunglasses indoors? And the answer is because I can. Because I can, I will, and I'm gonna even wear them at the gym later as well. And people are going to think, who's that idiot wearing sunglasses at the gym? And I'm going to be like, it's me, that idiot that wears sunglasses at the gym. All right. Not because I think I'm cool. It's more because I'm the ultimate legend, to be honest. Right. So anyway, let's continue. I can't give you the whole project like with all of the original channels because there's probably about 100 and it probably won't let me record the video without crashing about 4,000 times. So what you've got here is the latest stem edit project from Dust. Anyone? Dust? And basically what happens is in all of my tracks, really, and this is where the video gets slightly educational, but mostly I'm just going to be making jokes today. Where every time I finish a song, when I get close to finishing a song, I always bounce out the main project into like a stem project, so that I can keep tidying things up and get it closer and closer to the finish line. Reducing the amount of files until we're left with one. And so this is like the last project version I have before I then bounce this out. I basically, once I've done all my stem editing, I turn my output down to -4 and then I email it to myself and I ask myself if I can master it for myself. And then sometimes I'll email back and say, yeah, sure, mate, I'll do it for you. I'll do it half price, seeing as we're good mates. Sometimes I'll say, no, I'm not doing it for you, mate. Why would I master your track? You're my competition, mate. And then I realise that I'm talking to myself again and I've got no friends. And then I just end up mastering it for myself. And then I spam people on WhatsApp and say, listen to my song now. Okay, so that's how to be a music producer. And yeah, so what am I doing? We're doing YouTube today, not TikTok. You've done that. Now do YouTube. Right, okay. YouTubing along. One step at a YouTube time. We're gonna listen to this. I'm gonna talk about some concepts that might help you. They might not. Might all have been a big waste of time. And so I mean that's the song. Download it on Spotify now. Support it on Bandcamp. On Bandcamp, you can choose how much you pay. So you can pay like 150, like €1.50, or I think you can pay like 1 million euros as well. So if you ever want to do that, like just for a laugh, like let's say you won like loads of money on Dogecoin like 4 years ago, and you're thinking, Artifacts, that guy, he's learned me so much over the years. Like I thought, nah, I don't think I'll ever give him anything back. But this Dogecoin win that I had 4 years ago, and the fact that I'm a millionaire now, I mean, I could just buy one of his tracks on Bandcamp and give him $1 million, and then see what YouTube video he makes next on which yacht in which Pacific Island. Anyway, so are we going to do any learning today? Yeah, we'll do a little bit. Okay, so what we've got then. Drums, bass, leads, a bit of white noise. So I've managed to condense down my main sounds and groups to essentially almost like 3 main groups. And when I do the processing on these, a lot of just controlling the low end and like, yeah, just rebalancing things. Let's see if I can provide any value today. Fortunately, I've got my kicks and snares separated, so that's quite helpful. We'll start with the drums. So I've rendered down all my drum channels to basically 5, yeah, and then I reroute them into another drum bus again, yeah. So you can actually, yeah, you can have a little listen on their own how they sound. I went for this kind of like, yeah, more steppy kind of kick and snare rhythm. And yeah, really nice percussion that really fill out the mid-range, because it would be a bit boring without those. Yeah, because you'd have just, still pretty cool, to be fair, but the dusty percussions. Yeah, I like to just really fill out my drum groups as much as I can with interesting bits and bobs and stuff, you know? So the dusty kicks, they're just sort of like, it's the same kick, it has a slightly different length. I think the first one is like slightly longer than the second one to give a bit of kind of dynamic swing to it. Okay, I do a little bit of mid-side EQing on the kick. Like I mentioned, I don't ever do any low cutting directly. Here I've done, because it's the stem project, I'm doing like last minute tweaks, and I thought, oh, I can and get a bit more bass out of the kick here. You know, so that's something I sometimes do. It's a very low one. It's like 60 hertz, you know, so that's cool. I like that. Playing with the volumes a bit, you know, stem projects is like little bit of adjustments always, you know. The kick though, I mean, yeah, nothing too crazy, nothing too special. The snare, what I've got in my snare folder or channel is basically all of the different snares, including the little claps and ghost snares and things like that. It's got like a little claps in there as well that are like sort of almost a percussion thing, but I kind of classify them as like snare information. So I usually put them in my snare group together. And yeah, what do I also do? I also, as you hear, there's like reverb on this channel as well, because I've reverbed the snares, like certain layers. But you can hear, as I mentioned in my frequency cheat sheet chart 2 days ago, that the high end reverb is really the reverb. It's not, there's not really any mid range reverb. It's all like way above 1000 hertz, you know. So it's not going to get in the way of the bass or anything like that. My G's. Okay, dusty kicks and dusty snares. So there's little claps every now and again, like adding a bit of flavour and a bit of flex to the rhythm, yeah? We're going to talk a lot about call and response in this video, because that's the cool thing about this song. But I just want to cover the drum elements quickly. So then we've got our cymbals. So here, you know, again, I've amalgamated my different cymbal groups together into one, but you can hear they're all nice and yeah, clean sounding, like no distortion, bit of reverb in the high end, some different yeah, tonalities to the different types of hats and bits and bobs. And again, I'm just sort of controlling the channel with some low cutting and a little bit of compression as well, just to sort of like level out the volumes. Okay, so the dusty kicks, snares and cymbals. So I love my little offbeat little open hi-hats and things like that, as you can hear. All right, but yeah, we're just breaking down the main parts. So that's the Holy Trinity, the hats, kicks and snares, and then we've got like the percussion group. This is where I'm taking like Yeah, little bongo hits or little tom fills or and little classic breaks and bits like that, and made a little group out of that kind of cool stuff. So yeah, the extra like ear candy bits, and they have a bit more mid range in because they kind of need it. So I'm low cutting everything, but a bit lower. You see, it's sort of around. I go up. The highest I go up is about 300. So I leave a lot of the mid range in on those like on the breaks and percussion parts. You know. And yeah, there's a slight bit of compression. That's always just to control the weaker parts of the drums. For example, you guys know I don't put the compressor on the kick or the snare because those are like the PowerPoint presentations. You know, those are the PowerPoint presentations, and then these ones are like the Canva art form, like the Canva, like the Microsoft Outlook, you know, like the Photoshop, the old 2001 version. You know, now these the cymbals and the percussion, they're not like the foundation of my mixdown. The foundation of my mixdown is the kick, the snare, and the bass. You know, and so anything else. It can be a bit weaker, so that's why I compress it. Compressing for weakness, weakening of the volumes, you know. So that's the idea. Then we got our Foley breaks. This is oh yeah, wonderful. Yeah, this is where things get really, really dusty, and you can imagine now if you sort of have a little moment of silence and imagine that you imagine that you've got a CD and you're putting it in your PlayStation 1 and it doesn't work because you've scratched it up so much because you've been like you've been playing with your mate and you've been like sliding the CD across the floor to each other on that day when there was a power cut and you had no PlayStation, so you took all the CDs and you were just like sort of playing this game where you like slide CDs across the floor and like play a little football game like that. You were doing that and then you scratched up your CD and now you're trying to put it back in your PlayStation and it doesn't work. The game won't load up, and then that's the kind of sound that you get here. You know, just like sort of, yeah, just like scratchy bits and bobs. So I'm a big fan of using Foley, and yeah, I've got loads of Foley samples myself, but you can get Foley samples for free anywhere, easy. Go on freesound.org and get them on there if you haven't got anything on your hard drive. There's loads on there. And then, yeah, I just put one-shots, bits and Foley things in just to make things, keep things el natural, you know, baby, yes. And, there's another activist, Maguire, yes, activist, yes. And then, yeah, this was like another break. This could kind of technically be in my percussion channel, but like for some reason or other, I decided, it was a very Foley sounding break. I don't know. I left it in the same channel. Shoot me. It's kind of these two are kind of very similar. They're both like the sort of percussion / Foley elements that complement the drums. Yeah. So here I've got like it's like the bridge part of the track where the drum rhythm changes, and that's why I add in this new break to like give them new life into the arrangement. You know? I had this sort of concept of like, although it's quite dusty, it was also like a bit of a old school. How can I say? Yeah, battle, fighting, medieval. Yeah, like swords, shields, that kind of stuff. You know, knights, armor, metal, clinking, clanking. I wanted those kind of sounds in. You know, it was a bit of a like. I wanted this bit of a like battle feeling, so I used a lot of sounds like it's like a sword being pulled out of its sheath or something like that. I love the way that swords sound when they come out of their sheaths. It's one of the things I listen to before I go to sleep, because I like, you know, I always feel safer and I can get a better night's sleep when I feel like, you know, I've got my sword by my side in case like yeah, in case anyone like wants to like ring my doorbell late at night, and I know that I've got like a sword that I can, yeah, you know what I mean. This is the point where I've run out of jokes, so now I'm going to just talk about EQing kick drums, okay? That's enough about drums, isn't it? What have you got on the Foley breaks? Again, you've just got low cuts, compression, and a tiny bit of actual. This is quite interesting. I ended up sidechaining the breaks to the bass, so the breaks kind of, when they go a bit nuts in certain sections, I dip them down a bit to give the bass a bit more room. That's pretty much it for that. So that's like the drums. But most importantly, you know, you've got that power and weight of the kick and snare coming through. You know, these are the main guys up here, so we like them. Anyway, they're all going into my drum group, which is great because that has also a little bit of post-processing. And it's interesting here, I've done actually a bit of transient shaping on the whole drum group. And just to try and get a bit more headroom in my mix, I've actually taken the sustain down. I don't dare boost the attack on the whole group. That's a bit overkill. But I took the sustain down 8% on the whole drum group to make everything like a tiny bit tighter, to give a bit more space for everything else. Then I've done my mid-side EQing. I've gone up about 113 and then 131 on some side cuts, so giving a bit more stereo room for the bass. We've got a filter on here, and that's just used like to sort of for the outro. Pretty much, and then that's it. Clipping the channel, of course, and then that goes straight into the master, which again has nothing on it other than a clipper, of course. And then, so that's the drums. Yeah, wonderful. So let's talk about, let's do the bass next, as we're kind of going down in this order. Let's have a look at the bass on the Spectrum Analyzer. My sub is like a little bit on the quiet side. It could maybe be a bit louder, but I think that my kick is really subby as well. You know, my kick is like my kick is a massive blob of sub as well. So they kind of stacked up on top of each other quite nicely. And remember, this is before mastering, so when the mastered track was finished, the sub would have been a little bit higher by the end. But yeah, as you see, it's interesting. I've got quite a big gap in my bass there. I think that's because I left a bit of room for the leads. Let's just have a little look. Yeah, interesting. Together. Yeah, in hindsight, that's a little bit of a lower kind of amount of frequencies around there. I mean, obviously, when the drums are in and everything. Yeah, I mean, the kick and snare are really sort of dominating that range at the moment. Usually, I'd have a little bit more bass there. But I think it's just the way that this bass was designed. It kind of had that kind of character where it was more like sub bass and then crunch, and it wasn't like a super full spectrum bass up, you know. But yeah, it still sounds good anyway. At least all the frequencies are still being covered by one element or another, so it's still, you know, pretty full on. But yeah, the bass then on its own. Yeah, really driven by the sub in the low end, with this kind of arpeggiated feeling on. And there's a call and response kind of technique that I wanted to draw your attention to, which is basically so how I compose the kind of, yeah, if you like, rhythm, melody, whatever for the bass is, as you see, you have this first part, which is quite similar, and then as you get into the third and fourth bar here, but just slow down the rhythm, dum 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 dum. So that's where the call and response sort of happens, you know. And then it's basically the repeating again after that, but on a different pitch, a different note. So it's almost like you got the call and response between a fast bass up and a slower one, yeah. And so that's how I created that kind of, really obvious call and response rhythm, you know. And it works with the lead essentially, because the lead, if I just quickly play the lead as well. The lead is sort of doing the opposite, right? So the first half, you got fast bass up and like a slow, filtered down kind of lead sound. And then the second part is where you've basically got like a slower up funk rhythm groove banana. And then because that's slower, then the lead picks up and the lead has like a faster rhythm to it here. Yeah, and I say lead, there's like 3 leads, okay? But bear with the main lead. If I can locate the main one, I think it's not. I think it's the synth one here. Yeah. Everything else is like additional flavors, you know. But the main, the main kind of, the main bass is this one, and the main synth is this one. So here, this was a nightmare to mix down, by the way, this project. Like, it took me so long because there's so many like channels and different ideas and like so many background elements. It was an absolute nightmare, let me tell you. It was horrible to mix this one down. I still didn't get happy with it in the end, but as is the case with music production, nothing's ever going to be perfect, and at some point you need to just put a stop to it and just finish the damn song, you know? So yeah, essentially I got to the point where I was like, right, I need to finish it however I can, you know? And so just because my workflow is very chaotic sometimes, I have many ideas in one song, and so it can be a nightmare to mix down, but we get there in the end. We group things up, we bounce things out, and we try and finish it up. But yeah, so synth and bass, so that's the real meat and bones of your call and response pattern. And so yeah, you got the fast up with a slow lead, and then it swaps around and you get the slower up with like a faster lead. Okay, so that was the idea, really. So that's what makes it. Yeah, that's what makes the track, really makes the drop exciting to me, having that, you know? We got, if I can just brush over some of the other call and response bits going on. So I got my little vocal one-shots as well. And these are just like, I don't know where I got them, random vocal stuff that I've just massively affected. And I sent this, when I do actually send my tracks out to some friends on WhatsApp sometimes when I release them, just for a laugh, you know, just to annoy people. And I actually sent it to one of my mates from Israel, and he's like a messianic Jew. So he's basically a Jew for Jesus. And he's a legend. But I sent it to him, and he was like, he's not at all versed in drum and bass industry at all. And he was like, so what was it saying? What are they saying in it? And I was like, yeah, like it's just the human voice, really. Like I was trying to explain, basically, you guys know, but I like to use the human voice almost like as an instrument in itself, you know? So I like the dissonance it creates when you have like the human voice, but you don't actually hear any words or something. It creates like a haunting, spooky, unnatural sound, you know, which I like because it creates tension, you know? So that's the whole point of using vocals, to create the tension, because it's like just weird voice stuff, you know? So we just have this sort of call and response part, in a sense. Just the fourth one, you know, is like an extended version of the first 3 shorter vocal one-shots, you know? You've kind of got a bit of a background, almost like an air layer of like a higher pitched vocal reverb in the background as well. So again, this vocal channel is like a bunch of vocals I've grouped and bounced out together. It's like all of my vocals from the previous project. But, you know, they really, anchor the kind of groove and everything together with the synth and the bass. right, so that's how I basically compose the main melody for the track. You know, that's all coming from that sort of idea of the call and response with the bass and the fast and slow, the lead doing the opposite, and then the one-shot vocals kind of anchoring it all together. You've got more stuff going on though, because and that's why this track was a nightmare, because I had so many things I wanted to include. So then I basically got to a point halfway through the track when I was like, this needs something else still. And then I ended up drawing for like an old school synth to get this sort of retro lead, which kind of gave the whole song like a bit of a playful kind of feeling. And I basically done loads of versions of this little old school lead in different kind of with different effects on, and then I've called it the Genesis because it reminds me of like an old school video game kind of thing, right? And I basically then bounced out the whole channel of all the different ideas for this kind of video game retro lead sound that I played in. So here I'm using it. It's almost like a high energy ARP in the background, so it kind of fits with the synth and with everything, you know, with the bass here. So when there's like little gaps in the between the bass and the leads, like you hear the video game lead a bit more in this first section. Like here, and there's a little gap towards the end where you like hear it a bit clearer. Okay, and here it's like a background character, but later on in the track, you'll hear it becomes more of a main lead, you know? So here on this bridge section, you'll hear it a lot more. And it's like a slightly different variation of the lead that I created, you know? And it's when you get to the third section that you really hear the lead, like the video game lead becomes really much more audible here. I love that part. That was really cool. It's kind of like the synth that I was using sort of like spazzed out and went random and weird, and I thought I'm just going to leave that in because it's like completely off key and off kilter, but I just kind of thought that was cool. That's my favourite part of the song. It just went really random there. But yeah, so there you've got like, you kind of know the main characters in the play. There's actually a Dusty Monk that comes in later, and he only comes in for the second drop. And he is basically a like throat singing vocal sample, you know? And he basically sort of tries to become the bass line at that point. He becomes like a little vocal bass line. I go really off the beaten path with that idea there. I like that though. It's just really, really spooky and weird and eerie, you know. I round off the song pretty quickly there, but let me try and give you some more value. So we've got loads of call and response happening just between everything. There's so many like call and response within call and response within call and response. And but I've got all these sort of characters, you know. I've got my video game lead character. I've got my synth, my like sort of synth with loads of effects slammed on top of it. I think the original might have been a Vital, but I just refined it with so much distortion and reverb and bits and things like that it's just become like very textural, you know. Then I've got, you know, really over processed vocals. So we've got like in the beginning as well is how I do my call and response part for the intro. I have like a low vocal, then a high one. Okay, and I didn't mention in the drums as well, like in the intro we've got like some sort of classic marching cinematic kind of drum loops, you know, with a lot of like low pass filtering and that kind of stuff. Really, like when it comes to all of the intro and breakdown sounds, they're pretty much all just parts of the drop. You know, I don't really bother so much like making my own pads and drones like from separate instruments that often. I'll generally just use everything I've got on the drop and then make that into a pad. I can do a tutorial on that if you want, but it's pretty straightforward. I mean, you just take a little part of the sound, you reverb the hell out of it, and then you delay it, and then you filter it. You know, it's nothing crazy. Just expanding the texture of what you've already got to create elements that you need for the intro and the breakdown. So that's pretty much how I do that. And it makes it a lot easier to write and a lot quicker and more cohesive, you know. That's an age-old tip, though. I think most people know that. Rattlesnake noise, you know, I use a lot of white noise to like for the impact points. Little sweeps up between sections and like on the drop, like little down sweeps just for like extra impact. They're pretty low in the mix, but they add a bit of like dynamic realism to the key points. Let me see if I can try to add some more value here. Yeah, what's going on with the basses over here then, right? So I've got a bit, I sometimes, you know, I finish the projects and I go into my stem projects and I want to like beef up a sound still. So I'll end up layering things up more sometimes. So here, obviously I had my main bass and I thought I wanted to still give it more harmonics. So I added just like basically added a fresh layer on top of the whole bass group. And it's basically, I used the ripple phaser, a bunch of like convolution reverb, tape emulation. I use tape emulation like all the time, like on everything, because it's great for layering because it changes the harmonics really naturally. And then I just EQ out loads of the low end, so it's just a high end addition for the bass. Just give it like an extra cool texture on top. What have we got up here? We've got so these are my sort of like extra one-shot bass bits, you know? And yeah, I guess it's a bit more important in this section. Like the first part here, this is like my, I've called it backup bass, where basically it's like I have other little bass shots and bass ideas in my track, but they're not like the main one. They're like the secondary or tertiary bass sounds. And for the first drop, they're kind of just a background roll and they just have a little one shot here and there. And then as I go into my bridge section, they become more prominent because I kind of tame back the bass arp, the powerful one. I kind of do a bit less of that. I bring up some more of my background bass stuff, and then I bring up the Genesis lead a bit better here, you know. So that's the kind of how it sort of changes. But if you listen to like the bass and the lead. Yeah, so I'm always like changing the dynamics of the setups, you know. Think of always the different characters you've got, you know, the backup bass, the main bass, the Genesis lead, for example, 3 things, right? And then obviously the synth, you know. And they're all like characters, and then in like a different section I'll like switch around their roles, you know, so one will become more prominent and the other one will go back. And then that's really the main way that you get like a lot of interest in your whole composition in the song as a whole, when you have these evolving storylines between all of your key sounds, you know. I could probably go on to give a lot more tips, but this video is going to get really, really long. I could probably say a bunch more stuff, but my camera, I can just see, is about to run out of battery as well, so I think it's probably a good place to stop. But I hope that was a little bit helpful and insightful on just giving you a couple of compositional and arrangement ideas. Think call and response between everything, and think unique characters and how they can evolve and change throughout the different sections, and you create sort of new dynamic mix downs for each 16 bar section. That's really my favorite thing to do when composing drum and bass. Anyway, I will let you go, my G's. I hope this was a little bit helpful and insightful for you today. Remember as well, you can always check out the links down below for my one-on-one classes. Group masterclass coming up as well in November on drum composition. We got preset packs on my website, Faceplant and Vital primarily. And what else can I say? Check out my record label as well. We've got a new track coming out tomorrow from Hybert Phillips called Catacomb, which is a banger. You can always support our releases on Bandcamp or give us a cheeky follow on Instagram and SoundCloud. All right then, my G's. Take care. Much love. Speak to you guys soon.